Hi, I'm here with Dan Bradbary, CEO of V-Rooms. Dan, if you can please introduce your company for me.
Well, thanks very much. Now we're a virtual data room provider. The industry started approximately 8 to 10 years ago in providing secure online document exchange and collaboration for sensitive information, for M&A transactions, intellectual property, etc. And we've been in that marketplace for about 8 years now, almost coming upon the decade. We're one of the early providers for this type of service.
Okay, great. And Dan, are there any specific industries that you cater to?
A lot is kind of built around kind of the overall merger and acquisition market. Well, it's kind of split between the mergers and acquisitions as well as the business capital raising. Business capital raising is where we actually started in coming up with an acceptable online distribution program for the PPMs, for the private placement memorandum documentation, which really kind of brought that out of the Stone Ages, as opposed to having to go print up 500 copies of a 60-page document, number them, and then send them out to accredited investors and keeping track of those. So our business is primarily pretty well focused between those two areas right now.
Okay, great. Can you tell me an interesting story about your business?
Oh yes, an interesting story about the business, and I think this is really kind of indicative of the market and where it is right now. About 30% of our business now is involved in cross-border transactions, international transactions. And here is a typical arrangement. About a month ago, we received a call from an investment banker located in Paris, and he was representing a client in Canada, and the buyer was in Hong Kong. Without a virtual data room type program to handle the logistics of all the exchange of documents and agreements and everything back and forth, just the sheer magnitude of that and trying to get a deal accomplished between three continents was really not going to be possible. So it just really kind of reinforces the need for this type of service in the marketplace.
Great. Now, what would these companies have done prior to having a virtual data room? What ways would they go about sharing this information?
It would have been quite a struggle. They would have had to heavily depend upon DHL, international courier services, and shipping documents back and forth between the countries. And just the length of the transaction would no doubt have extended far beyond the time it took to actually conclude the deal.
Okay, great. So your services really speed up that process.
Oh, absolutely.
Great. Dan, can you tell me how your services compare with some competitors like Merrill and Intralinks?
Right. If you look at the features that we have, we're very comparable to those firms. We have a lot of high-level security features, security access levels, the rights to restrict the printing, downloading of information, as well as the full array of administrative reports that show you how the information was uploaded, who uploaded it, who accessed it. It's just the whole area there of secure, controlled distribution of information. But one of the primary areas that we are able to compare very well with the larger providers there is that with our low overhead structure, we can offer a very cost competitive and very economically priced model. Since we are not tied in with a major printing firm, we do not have any printing presses sitting in Omaha that we have to support through our virtual data room business.
Okay, great. Now, Dan, tell me one thing that you can really attribute to the success of your company.
I think we continue to hear this on just a repeated basis, that our customer service is extremely good. And when I say customer service, in that we offer 24/7, round the clock, around the world support. So our customers, they can pick up the phone, they can talk to a real live person. And I want to emphasize this too. And I say that when you call into our support department, I say this kind of jokingly, but it's true. When you call into our support department, you get to talk to a real live person. Now, they may talk a little bit slower because they're from Texas, but you can understand every word that they're saying. I want to emphasize that is that we do not outsource our support.
Great. That's beautiful. And Dan, I know you're busy, so I have one last question for you. Tell me your predictions for your company in the next year.
the vision of the company in the next year is we're going to continue to increase, no doubt, the international exposure and the rate at which we're handling the international transactions. That is already at 25-30%, and I fully expect by the end of this year we'll be at 50% international coverage. We're also expanding the platform of well outside of the virtual data room industries in which it has typically been used, being the fundraising, being the M&A transactions, but making a major push into life sciences, into clinical trials for biotech and pharmaceutical development, and some other major areas, legal cases, litigation, just the whole expanding area of secure online document exchange.
Very cool. Now tell me some tactics you plan on utilizing in order to increase your international exposure.
We have become involved with several organizations who are based in the UK, in Asia, and they're providing us with the international exposure. We just returned from the Alliance and Merger and Acquisition Advisors. They had their international conference in Miami within the past few weeks, and there we were able to connect with quite a number of international service providers, being the law firms, being the accounting firms that support transactions on an international scale, and these are actually located outside the United States.
Great. That's great to hear. I really look forward to seeing that happen. And I thank you so much for sitting down and meeting with me, Dan.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to keeping in touch with Fundology.
Thank you. If you're interested in learning more about V-Rooms and connecting with Dan, head to fundology.com.